The anime begins at an academy where a girl named Rei meets her friends who are wielding swords. Meanwhile, a boy named Nomura arrives at the academy happy to finally have a peaceful place to study. Rei stands in the center of a group and introduces herself, soon joined by her friend Mary, who is waiting for her. Rei explains that she gathered everyone as part of the 5 Supreme Swords to discuss the new boy Nomura, who was transferred after causing a riot at his previous school, leaving 40 students injured. Elsewhere, Nomura encounters Masakatara and another student dressed like a girl. Masakatara explains that all the boys at the academy cross-dress to avoid trouble. Nomura is puzzled but firmly declares that he won't do the same despite Masakatara's advice not to cause problems. Back at the meeting, the girls question Rakira about her presence. She says she is interested in Nomura and has already fought him. Rei tells her there will be no need for further fights since Nomura is in her class and she will fix him. Rakira leaves but warns Rei about Nomura's spirit bullet. Later, Rei gathers a group of girls to confront Nomura, who walks into the room. Rei holds him close and instructs the others not to harm him, saying she will correct his behavior. One girl explains that the academy recently became co-ed and boys started causing trouble. In response, the girls formed a group and were permitted to carry swords. The academy also accepts misbehaving boys from other schools for correction. Nomura listens and begins to understand the situation. Meanwhile, Masakatara watches from afar and further explains the reason behind the boys' cross-dressing. Rei offers Nomura 2 choices: dress like a girl or leave the academy. Nomura refuses, both insisting he will live freely as a boy. Moving swiftly, he looks up skirt and announces that her underwear is purple before leaping out the window. Furious, Rei chases after him, reminding him that boys need permission from the 5 Supreme Swords to leave the academy. She tries to strike him with her sword, but Nomura dodges her attacks. Impressed by his agility, Rei prepares a stronger technique. Nomura skillfully avoids her blows while Wamari observes from the sidelines. Rei intensifies her attacks, cutting parts of Nomura's shirt. Nomura attempts to counter her, but she assumes a crane stance. She lands a strike, leaving a cut on his cheek. In response, Nomura puts on special gloves designed to counter swords. As the school bell approaches, the other girls worry that Rei might lose and face ridicule from Rakira. Nomura eventually trips and falls into a tree. Rei relentlessly strikes him until he uses his spirit bullet technique, concentrating air to knock her down, ultimately winning the fight. Nono appears and hits Nomura on the head, forcing him to kiss Rei. Embarrassed and angry, Rei vows to castrate him. Later, Nono takes a bath while Mary, another Supreme Sword, reassures her that Rei will take her revenge. Another student, Choka, appears and claims she can handle the situation. Mary dismissively tells Choka to stop talking and join her in the bath. That night, Masakatara is surprised to learn that Nomura only injured his leg in the fight. Nomura mentions that he won't be able to use his legs for a while but plans to train his arms to fight the girls. Nomura asks how to obtain permission to leave the academy. Masakatara explains that he needs the approval of Rin and the seal of the 5 Supreme Swords. Nomura asks for a box of baked goods. The next day, he brings the baked goods to class as a peace offering to the girls, but they suspect it's a trap. Nomura asks about Rei and Yui tells him she is sick and that her underwear is white. He inquires about the girls' dormitories, which are located on the west side of the academy. Rei, remembering a walker while wearing a mask, wakes up from a fever, angry at Nomura but also recalling her first kiss. Embarrassed, she refuses to take off her mask. When Nomura arrives with baked goods, he comments that she looks cute in her mask. Flustered, Rei admits she's too shy to remove it. Nomura requests permission to leave the academy and Rei reluctantly grants it, giving him the seal of her sword. When Nomura cheekily asks to thank her with a kiss, she faints. Nono enters and chases him out. Choka intercepts Nomura and introduces herself as the leader of the Junior 5 Swords. Nono arrives asserting her leadership and vowing to defeat Nomura. They attack him together. Nono lands a hit and Nomura notices her fighting style resembles Rei's. Choka explains that only Rakira has successfully defeated 2 opponents simultaneously. Surprised, Nomura learns that Rakira outranks the 5 Supreme Swords and is an exchange student with a rebellious streak. As the girls surround Nomura, he deflects Nono's attack, causing Choka to accidentally hit her with a whip. He uses his technique to throw Nono at Choka. Both girls start crying, afraid that he will kiss them as he did Rei. Later, Rei gives Nomura permission to leave the academy. Meanwhile, Mary becomes furious at Nomura for touching Choka and vows to take revenge.
Like that's ever gonna happen.
The next day, Rei informs Nomura that she will supervise him. She checks his bag for any dangerous items. Mary and Choka arrive and Mary accuses Nomura of abusing Choka. Rei asks Nomura to leave so she can speak to Mary privately. While Rei confronts Mary, Choka chases after Nomura. She attempts to whip him, but he disarms her, causing her to faint from embarrassment due to her lack of pants. Meanwhile, Rei loses her battle with Mary, who then sets off to confront Nomura. At the same time, Nomura encounters Rakira and remembers someone named Amo who resembles her. He asks if they fought before, but Rakira denies it and warns him to stay away. Ignoring her, Nomura charges at her, but Mary interrupts, scolding him to put on his pants. This distraction causes Nomura to lose sight of Rakira. Mary then takes care of Choka. Later Rakira admits that at her old school she pretended to be the boy Amo to provoke Nomura into fighting for her. However, Nomura refused and tried to avoid her. Enraged, Rakira attacked him with hands as sharp as blades, injuring him. Returning to the present, Mary fights Nomura, managing to cut him slightly using her Western-style swordsmanship. Despite Nomura's efforts to dodge her attacks, Mary gains the upper hand, inflicting more injuries with her rapid spinning sword techniques. Meanwhile, Rei finds Choka and asks about Nomura and Mary's whereabouts. Nomura confronts Mary, who moves to stab him with her sword. However, he reveals he blocked the attack with a manga magazine hidden under his shirt. Taking advantage of her surprise, Nomura grabs Mary and lightly strikes her on the head. He then uses his technique to throw her to the ground. Defeated, Mary pleads with him to kill her, preferring death over admitting defeat. Nomura refuses, stating he would never do such a thing. Desperate, Mary asks him to touch her instead, but Nomura declines and instead demands her seal for permission to leave the academy. Mary places the seal between her breasts, challenging him to take it. Once again, Nomura refuses. Shortly afterward, Rei arrives furious at Nomura. Surprisingly, Mary defends him and willingly hands over her seal, declaring that from now on she will also supervise Nomura alongside Rei. Later, Rei and Mary monitor Nomura while he eats lunch. Meanwhile, Wamari returns to the academy boasting about her wonderful vacation in Hawaii. She notices that Mary and Rei are attempting to fix Nomura and shares her concerns with Satori, another member of the Five Swords. Satori agrees with Wamari that Rei and Mary need correction for their growing camaraderie with Nomura. During gym class, Nomura discovers Masakatara tied to a pole, beaten. He tries to help, but Rin and Mary stop him, expressing their unease. Suddenly, Wamari appears, inviting Nomura to participate in her death festival, an event she uses to correct disobedient students. She promises to give him her seal if he participates. Rin and Mary strongly oppose the idea, but Wamari reveals that the festival was approved by the Council of Five Swords. 3 students appear behind her, declaring themselves as Nomura's opponents in the festival games. Later, Wamari scolds Rin and Mary for being too lenient with Nomura. She sets up a ring for the first game where Rin advises Nomura to focus, warning him that Wamari's games are notoriously difficult. She recounts how Wamari once corrected a boy by placing a torch on his back and pouring gasoline over him. Wamari then hands them pieces of cloth to wear as sumo wrestlers' loincloths. Before the games begin, Choka and Nono arrive, attacking Wamari's servants in an attempt to stop the festival. However, the 2 girls are overpowered. Rin and Mary intervene but explain that they cannot halt the festival because it's a council-sanctioned decision. Nomura eventually appears wearing his sumo loincloth, seeking assistance from Rin to put it on properly. She feels awkward as he helps her. Nomura then assists Mary, who later complains that he spent more time helping Rin than her. A film crew records the festival and broadcasts it on screens throughout the academy. Nomura enters the ring ready to face one of Wamari's girls. However, Toko, one of the participants, informs him that his opponent is already in the ring. To his shock, Nomura then realizes that Wamari Bear will fight him. However, Rin and Mary are angry, saying it's not a fair fight, but Wamari explains that if they beat her bear they'll earn 3 points. So Nomura agrees. Wamari then throws a bottle on the ground to start the fight. Nomura rushes at the bear and uses his technique. However, the bear resists and tries to attack him, so Nomura comes up behind it and lifts it, saying that since childhood he has fought the biggest opponents to gain strength in his legs. He then tries to pull the bear out of the ring, telling Wamari that he hates her for hurting Masakatara and humiliating the girls. At this point, Nomura stops and moves away from the bear, which results in the bear being left naked. As a result, Nomura wins the fight and returns with the girls while Wamari faints and then orders her servants to activate the alarm. On the other side, Nomura watches Masakatara, who is still tied up. Later, Wamari announces that the festival is over but tells Nomura that if he wants her seal he will have to meet with her servants to get it. However, Rin and Mary tell him that this is not necessary, to which he explains that it's the only way to save Masakatara. The 2 then decide to accompany him and enter the dressing room to change. Then, without warning, Nomura enters, which annoys them, and they start throwing things at him. Later, Choka and Nono approach him and ask him for a favor. Soon after, the 2 enter the academy and start fighting against Wamari's servants, while Nomura tells Rin and Mary what's going on. They are upset to learn that their friends are fighting for them. However, Nomura explains that it's just a distraction so they can get to Wamari. At that moment, Satori appears and approaches them, saying that Wamari is out of control and that's why she'll help them get to her, since the council has only authorized the festival. On the other hand, Wamari realizes that some girls in masks are rescuing Masakatara. Then Nomura comes with the girls to confront her. Wamari summons her bear to fight for her. Mary realizes that Tuko and her comrades are closing in on them, so she decides to face them. Later, Nomura rushes at the bear, but it beats him. As the fight continues, Rin decides to attack Wamari, but Wamari dodges her attack and wounds her shoulder with her sword. Seeing this, Rin realizes that Wamari's movements are impressive. However, like her friends, she continues to attack Wamari, who dodges her blows and hurts her even more. Later, she tries to cut her leg, but Rei assumes a crane pose and kicks her, saying that she too has amazing techniques. On the other side, Mary defeats Tanukiharu and pins her against the wall. Back with Nomura, he hits the bear with his magic bullet. However, he is backed into a corner. Mary, on the other hand, is distracted and eventually attacked by Sarawatari, who throws metal objects at her. Wamari tries to distract Rin. Rin starts to have doubts, but Nomura calms her down and thanks her for her support. As a result, Mary lunges at the girls and defeats them. Nomura also manages to hit the bear and finish it off. Finally, Rin draws her sword and attacks Wamori, who tries to do the same but retreats when she sees that Rin won't stop. As a result, Wamori loses. Choka and Nono then arrive and are happy to see Rin defeat Wamori. Nomura then asks for help dressing Wamori as a sumo wrestler to signify her defeat, which angers the others, and they start chasing him. The next day, Rin checks out her new mask, but remembers that Nomura thinks she looks cute without it, so she decides to keep using the rest of it. Nono tells her it looks really good. Mary, on the other hand, gets perfumed before going to the academy and asks Choka how she looks. Choka compliments her and tells her she's the prettiest. Later, both are jealous when they see the other girls greet Nomura as if he were a hero for fighting a bear. Then in class, Nomura starts yawning. Rin kicks him, telling him to pay attention to class. Mary pulls away the girls, who start looking at Nomura. After class, however, all the girls start watching him from afar, which annoys Rin and Mary, who decide to accompany Nomura to lunch. Nomura tells them that lunch is his only moment of freedom, to which they say that if they weren't with him, the other girls would attack him. Then they both say goodbye and remind him that they'll come back the next day. Wamori then comes out of her hiding place and confesses that after watching Nomura, she realized he's not the criminal she had thought. Later, Rin and Mary talk, thinking about what they will do with Nomura, as they claim they need to fix him before things get worse. On the other side, Nomura sits down to dinner with Masakatara while someone watches him. Later that night, they both go to bed, but someone enters the room. The next day, Nomura waits for Rin and Mary to get ready to go to class. Then he goes up to Rin and mentions that she has a very beautiful uniform. He also senses Mary and tells her that her perfume from yesterday smelled better, which makes both of them blush. Afterward, Ray examines him and finds in one of his pockets a photograph of Satori appearing in bed in front of him. Mary therefore becomes angry. However, Nomura claims he doesn't remember anything about it. Consequently, he runs away from the girls until he runs into Bear and Wamori, who hide him so the girls won't find him. Nomura explains to Wamori what's going on, and she tells him that Satori is trying to destroy his relationship with Rin and Mary. Nomura realizes that something isn't right in the picture, so he plans to enter the girls' dormitory to look for clues. However, Wamori warns him that because of him, the girls' dormitory is now more secure than before. Later, Rin and Mary punish Nomura in the torture room for trying to break into the girls' dormitory. Since he doesn't answer their questions, they leave him in the dungeon. Wamori then comes to help him. We go back to the moment when Nomura tells Wamori to have the girls catch her so he can enter the dormitory. Wamori agrees to help, saying that Satori shouldn't be acting like this. Back in the present, Wamori and her bear accompany Nomura to Satori's room. They search, but find nothing. Wamori suggests that one of her masked servants might know something. They leave the room and go to the bathroom. There, Nomura sets a trap and dodges arrows. Then some girls show up and the bear hides him against the wall. Nomura panics, which causes the bear to fall, and Wamori hides it by holding a mop into its face. In the bathroom, Wamori checks Satori's underwear but finds nothing. She realizes that her sword is missing. One of the masked girls attacks by throwing a dart at Nomura, but Wamori defends him and prepares to fight. Suddenly, a naked Satori appears. Satori tells Nomura that Masakatara helped her into his room. She says that she undressed and drugged him with sleeping pills. She shows him that the photo data is around her neck. Meanwhile, Mary complains to Chuka about Nomura calling him an idiot. However, she remembers that he never touched or insulted her. Rin also complains about Nomura and asks Nono what she thinks of him. Nono replies that ever since he kissed her, she thinks he's awful, which makes Ray blush and decide to go to bed. Back at Satori's, Wamori orders Nomura to fight with her. Satori invites him into the bathroom to fight there, and he asks her to get dressed, but she refuses, saying it's part of her strategy. Wamori fights the masked girl, realizing that the dart drug is affecting her. Satori quickly attacks Nomura and throws him out of the window. She tries to cut him with her sword, but he dodges. She changes tactics, trying to slash his leg, but he lifts it up, realizing he is in trouble since Satori uses different techniques. Wamori fights a masked girl who hits her in the arm with a dart gun. Wamori realizes that the gun is also poisoned, so she cuts her hand to release the poison and attacks the masked girl. Satori wounds Nomura, telling him that he can't predict her actions. She suggests he play a game of word chains based on different attacks. Meanwhile, Wamori drops her sword while trying to hit the masked girl. Nomura distracts Satori by undressing, and Satori focuses on one of his organs, weakly trying to hit him. Nomura takes advantage and steals her sword while Wamori throws the masked girl to the ground and beats the mask off. Satori grabs the photo data and tells Nomura to throw it into the water, but he slaps her, sending her and the data into the pool. She asks why he's so angry. He replies that it's because she made Ray cry. Ray, who thought Satori slept with him. The next day, Nomura wakes up in the infirmary with Satori, who's happy to see him, and Wamori's sleeping in the other bed. He wonders how he got there. We see a flashback of him offering to help Satori out of the pool, but she hears the girls approaching and pushes him into the pool to hide him. Tuko and her companions find Wamori on the ground, so they examine her and try to remove the other girl's mask. However, she stops them and Toko knocks her out. Inaba arrives with her subordinates and asks her to check on Wamori, who has been poisoned. Inaba tells them to take her to the infirmary while she deals with the others in the pool. In the bathroom, Satori denies Nomura's presence. Inaba says she knows he's here but doesn't care and wants to talk to Nomura later. Nomura gets out of the pool but Satori says he can't fight Inaba in his condition. He then falls down. Satori realizes he is at his limit, weakened by Rei and Mary's torture. Rei wakes up thinking about Nomura and goes to talk to him. On her way she meets Mary, who also wants to go to the holding cell to talk to Nomura. They change direction and go to the canteen to avoid being seen. There they drink tea until they are joined by Choka and Nono. Choka and Nono try to take them to the dormitory until Satori comes in. Satori informs them that Nomura is in the infirmary and that he attacked her in the bathroom, angering them. Back in the present, Satori ends up telling Nomura that she had to fight Wamori to decide what to do with him. He remembers that he needs to talk to Inaba. Meanwhile, Inaba is lying in bed waiting for Nomura. Nomura gets dressed and Satori confesses that she told Rin and Mary what he was doing in the bathroom. Rin arrives and approaches Nomura, who is scared and asks her to stop. She leans over to him and apologizes, saying that Satori told her the truth about the photo. She looks up and sees something of Nomura's when he couldn't keep his pants on out of fear. They sit down and Rin says he can do whatever he wants to her since she deserves to be punished. Nomura asks her to close her eyes and raise her head, thinking he's going to kiss her. He takes off her mask and asks why she's wearing it. Rin explains that her mom always said she was ugly because of her father, who abandoned them when she was a kid. Her mom made her wear the mask, so she continued it in the academy. She admits to Nomura that when he said she looked beautiful without it, she felt for the first time that she could live without the mask. Hearing this, Nomura returns the mask, saying it's her choice to wear it or not. She asks him to keep her secret. Meanwhile, Wamori refrains from going to the bathroom so as not to disturb them. Nomura tells Rin about the scars on his back, saying that he's been an orphan all his life and can't even remember his parents' names. He was raised by a grandfather obsessed with swords and forced him to train even though his body wasn't ready by insulting him. Rin thanks him for his trust and Wamori decides to go to the bathroom with a bucket. Suddenly Mary comes in and apologizes to Nomura and undresses, but he immediately forgives her and asks her to get dressed. Later Nomura returns to his room and meets Masakatara, who is ashamed for having tricked him. Nomura says that Masakatara probably did it to protect the guy's dorm, so he still considers him a friend. Meanwhile, the girls return to their normal lives and Rin thinks about Nomura all the time. A few days later, Nomura has a dream about Rikiru, who almost killed him at his old school. Meanwhile, the maid discovers that Rikiru has disappeared from her room. The two boys are taking a shower when suddenly a monster with a woman's head appears. They ask Nomura for help, but he refuses and tries to sleep. Rin comes to find him, so he gets up. Masakatara gives him permission and the guys realize that Nomura needs another stamp. Masakatara says he can't get one since he has to defeat Inaba. Meanwhile, Inaba informs the headmaster that Rikiru is missing from her dormitory. As a result, the principal announces that classes for the day will be suspended. Meanwhile, Satori goes to the roof to look at a picture of her with Nomura. When he returns, Rin informs him that several items are missing from the girls' dormitory, including Wamori's teddy bear. Despite searching the girls' rooms, they can't find it. Wamori says they need to find Domo before Satori does, for fear that she might think Domo is a teddy bear and take him away. Mary meets Nomura and Rin and asks for their help in finding Chuki's wig, without which she won't leave her room. They agree to help with the search. Meanwhile, Nono asks Inaba if she knows anything, but she says she doesn't. Later, Mary overhears Wamori talking to her friends and mistakenly thinks they are also looking for Chuki's wig. However, Wamori approaches them and Nomura explains that they are looking for different things. They begin to argue about what to look for first. Nomura then remembers the monster the guys saw and goes to the bathroom. There he finds two guys in the shower who start throwing things at him, but he manages to catch Domo, who is wearing Chuki's wig. Back at the girls' house, Chuka comes out of her room to put the wig on but finds it damaged. Rin then reminds them that they need to hurry to class, but Mary informs her that classes have been suspended due to Rikiru's disappearance. Meanwhile, Satori slaps Megori, who finally appears without her mask. Rikiru suddenly appears and takes Satori's picture, tearing it to pieces. Wamori realizes that Rikiru is going to fight Satori, so she rides a bear to intervene. Satori asks Rikiru if she can leave and Rikiru steps aside. Approaching the door, Satori draws her sword to attack Rikiru, but she is faster and stabs her with her hand. She prepares to kill Satori, but Megori shoots a dart at her. Satori tries to strike her with her sword, but Rikiru dodges and wounds Megori. Rikiru raises her hand to finish Satori, but Megori intervenes and takes the blow. Rikiru tastes their blood and realizes they are sisters. Megori recalls her childhood desire to fit in with her sister Satori, who rejected her, stole her name and identity. Despite this, Megori confesses her love for Satori while bleeding, causing Satori to cry. Wamori arrives and confronts Rikiru. They attack, but both are immediately wounded. Wamori realizes her attack was futile as Rikiru remains unharmed, leading her to believe that Rikiru's body is made of steel. Nomura returns to his room with Masakatara and meets Inaba, who Masakatara says is the strongest girl in the academy. Nomura decides to ask for her seal. Inaba moves quickly, putting her sword to his neck, but then Inaba explains that the director spoke to her and asked her to take care of him since he's reached the limit of 2 infractions. She lists his infractions: entering Rin's dormitory, fighting with Satori, and ignoring her invitation. Nomura apologizes, saying he can't be blamed for something he didn't know about. Inaba objects, saying she can blame him because she is stronger than him. Nomura realizes that Inaba's skills are similar to his. She recognizes that they are colleagues and both trained in the same fighting style, although Nomura suffered more during training. She realized this from his style of striking, which can extend to the sword, and the way he kept the right distance during the fight with Rin, a sign that he was used to fighting with swordsmen. Meanwhile, Wamori Bear attacks Rikiru, who stops and pierces him, causing him to fall. Nomura hears a noise on the roof while Inaba continues talking. Rikiru approaches Wamori and Saruwatari strikes her in the head, but Rikiru is unharmed and injures her. Toko and Tanakihira decide to attack Rikiru despite Wamori's protests. Inaba tells Nomura that his magical strike proves beyond doubt that they are colleagues. However, he is distracted by a noise on the roof. Inaba says that Rikiru is probably causing trouble and mentions that Rikiru knows him because she was the one who told them about his technique. This worries Nomura since he knows that Rikiru fought Rin and Mary before his arrival. Inaba becomes annoyed when she realizes that Nomura has left her alone and threatens Masakatara. Nomura rushes to the roof while Rikiru is beating up the girls. Wamori begs her to stop, so Rikiru blinds her, saying that she shouldn't watch her friends suffer if she can't save them. The other girls realize that something terrible is happening and head to the roof. Upon arrival, Nomura finds the girls on the ground and approaches Wamori, who asks about her friends. He says that they are better off than her. Then Principal Yukino appears. Rikiru approaches Inaba and asks if she will protect the girls. Inaba replies that they are not her friends. Rin and Mary arrive with their assistants to confront Rikiru. Yukino checks on Wamori, stating that she will not be able to open her eyes and will need surgery. She asks Nomura to fight Rikiru. He watches as Rin and Mary attack Rikiru, who defends herself and wounds them. Rikiru admits that she turned her body into a weapon. Rei tells Nono and Choka to run, but Inaba intervenes, asking Nono if she considers her a friend. Nono says yes, so Inaba tells Rikiru that she will not let her friends get hurt. Inaba clashes with Rikiru. She quickly stabs Rikiru 3 times, slightly wounding her, but also injuring herself, and her sword breaks. Rikiru attacks, but Nomura intervenes, causing her to lose control. We flash back to Nomura arriving at his old academy and protecting a boy named Kurosaki, and then meeting Rikiru, who was dressed as a boy. He tried to befriend her, but she rejected him. Kurosaki offered to show Nomura around, but Rikiru interrupted him, causing her to injure Kurosaki for walking with Nomura. Back in the present, Nomura punches Rikiru, who injures him. He reveals that he protected himself with a manga magazine under his uniform. Nomura gets mad at Rikiru for not changing since she still hurts her friends. Nomura realizes that his only chance against her is to use his technique since he can't resist her bladed arms. Rei ponders how to motivate him and realizes that Rikiru's chest is badly damaged by Inaba's attack. Mary adds that Rikiru's body is 70% water, so there must be a moment when she relaxes her muscles, giving Nomura an opening. They encourage Nomura to strike Rikiru in the center. Nomura then assumes a swordsman's stance with one leg forward, waiting for Rikiru to attack. Nomura then charges at her, but Rikiru dodges him with a punch. Quickly turning around, Nomura tries to strike her again, but she dodges and cuts his shirt. Nomura then tries to surprise her from behind, but she punches him in the stomach. She continues the attack by covering his eyes with her jacket. Inaba advises Nomura to dodge to the left to avoid Rikiru's attack. Inaba then gives Nomura advice, telling him that his problem is his constant doubts. She explains that Rikiru has shown her weakness, so she relays her plan to Nomura, who decides to follow it and attack Rikiru again. Before doing so, he thanks the girls for their support and remembers the painful days of training with his grandfather. He comments on his decision to run away in search of a normal life, which seemed impossible until he remembered the good times he had with each of the girls at the academy. Hearing this, Rikiru clutches her chest, stating that she needs Nomura. She explains how her life has always been dark and then he came along. She admits that she accepted his friendship because he brightened her life, but when he decided to befriend Kurosaki instead, the darkness returned. In a flashback, Rikiru enters her room and pines for Nomura, but decides that she must kill him since she can never be with him. Back in the present, Nomura unbuttons his shirt to attack Rikiru. She asks what he is planning, and he replies that he will attack her like the beast she is. Inaba reveals that Nomura's fighting style relies heavily on agility. To succeed, he needs a good momentum and reduce body friction, so he decided to expose his chest so Rikiru would target that spot. Nomura then lunges at her and she stabs him right in the chest. However, he does not stop and uses his technique, sending her to the ground. Rikiru remembers the first time Nomura used this technique on her, feeling something new in her chest despite the blows. Rikiru stands up, surprising the girls, who cannot believe that she withstood Nomura's blow. Nomura admits that he will not be satisfied with just one blow, so he offers her the chance to strike him back, promising not to defend himself. They both abandon all thoughts of defense and begin to hit each other with all their might. The director watches them, calling out to a girl named Narukami, who eagerly awaits the outcome of the fight. Inaba wonders why Nomura and Rikiru seem so happy. Rikiru asks Nomura to continue, claiming that she likes the pain because it makes her feel alive. She attacks Nomura, causing him to stagger. He hits her with his technique and she responds by cutting his stomach. Nomura realizes that Rikiru is hiding her true strength. She takes his hand, offering him another chance to finish her off. She places his hand on her chest, asking him to hit her again, wanting him to kill her. He does so. Inaba then points her sword at Nomura, saying that they cannot be friends since he has disappointed her with his fight. However, she offers to be his teacher, insisting that she will give him her seal if he agrees. Rei and the others realize that it is a good deal, but he refuses again. At that moment, the Satori girls in masks beat up Rakira, but Yukino stops them and informs Nomura that he has been expelled from the academy. Masakatara later accompanies Nomura to the infirmary. The next day, Nomura visits Wamori in the infirmary. She tells him not to worry about her. He then visits Satori, who is unsure how to express her feelings about saying goodbye. Nomura explains that emotions express themselves. Satori makes a sour face and asks him his opinion of her, expecting him to hate her. He replies that he does not, since she only tried to cut him in the bathroom without her clothes on. He says goodbye and sees Midori approaching Satori to apologize. Rin and Mary beg the principal to change her mind, claiming that Nomura fought Rakira for the academy's benefit. However, she refuses. Nomura meets Inaba, who tells him that Rakira has decided to leave the academy and go abroad. He tries to find her, but Inaba stops him, saying that he needs all 5 signatures to leave, showing that he has not been expelled yet. Nomura agrees to become her apprentice in order to receive her seal. At the airport, he surprises Rakira and asks about her plans. She replies that she will do what she wants and that he can too. She kisses him, claiming that he belongs only to her, and asks him to tell the 5 swords to stay away from him. Nomura later meets Rin. Mary arrives, angry that Rin didn't wait for her. She tells him that the principal was just joking and changed her mind about expelling him. Rei pulls out her sword and tells him that he must obey them or leave the academy. He refuses and continues to the entrance of the academy, where everyone welcomes his return.